Chris Rock Show, the core of new rock and metal.
I have got the amazing honor of having Megan of Vexed on the show. This is ridiculous to have you on here. So thank you for joining me. How are you doing?
No, I'm good. Thank you. No, it's a real honor to be on the show. So thank you for having me.
Very over the moon, to say the least.
Oh,
I actually caught you live last year with Spirit Box, and you were absolutely incredible at London.
thank
So,
you.
I mean, yeah, insane. I've got to start by asking though, how are the ducks doing?
The ducks are amazing. Thank you for asking.
Honestly,
Yeah,
the
they're doing
Instagram
really
stories.
well. Oh my God. Yeah, that most people want to know about the ducks more than the band, and I'm happy
Oh,
to talk about the
absolutely.
ducks all day.
I mean, important question. Have you like considered which one you prefer to take on tour? Have you
Oh,
sampled any
God.
of them on a track yet?
Well, we've done a video of them reacting to our album, but I don't know if we're going to release it or not because,
Please.
um, God, they're all so sassy. They're proper rock stars. Like they would be like, we want a ton of corn on every rider. So they'd be a nightmare to take.
Is that where you get your like metal attitude from your performances, do you reckon?
From my ducks.
Yeah,
Or
absolutely.
yeah, they're my inspiration in every aspect of my life.
Anyway, so obviously you've dropped an album, which is why we've got you on.
Yeah.
So Negative Energy, it's amazing. I've been listening to it again before, obviously getting on to chat about it. How have you personally felt with the response to it coming out?
It's been really good, and like we're really kind of like, I think once we go out and play some live shows it'll sink in, but
Hmm.
at the moment it's just kind of like it doesn't feel real almost because it's just, I don't know, I think as a musician or an artist you always don't necessarily expect the worst, but you don't
Mhm.
expect the best either. You just kind of roll with the punches, and it's gone down so well
Yeah.
that it's kind of hard to comprehend. So yeah, we're just extremely happy and excited to like hear more people, talk about it and play it for people.
And comparing the title of the album compared to the actual music in the album itself, I was like reading through the lyrics while I was listening to the tracks, and it really relates. Is that kind of, was there a thought process behind choosing that title for the album, or did you kind of like just pick it out of nowhere?
It took us ages to try and think of a name for the album because we're so picky, and it's also really important that we all like it, because
Mhm.
I'd come up with one and I quite liked it, but the boys weren't keen, so it was immediately like, okay, well, we're not going to use it, we all really have to equally like it. So it took us ages to try and think of it, and we had loads of words written out on our notes on our phones of things that kind of felt right.
Yeah.
And one of them I had on my phone was Negative Energy, but I'd completely forgotten about it. And then when we were going through them, it came up, and it was just like, actually, that's perfect, because all that we had, like strength, energy wise, literally was negative. And so it just felt like the right thing. It was like, God, the only way we've managed to get through this is by using all of our negative energy. And it just kind of worked really weirdly in a good way.
I feel like the next album just needs to be pure happiness, just to completely contrast with it, like a B-side or something. I love it. So I mean, continuing on with this, like it hits really hard. There's some really strong topics on there, like you don't hold back, and I love that. But is there a track on there particularly that resonates with you the most out of all of them at all, and why?
there's they all resonate. I'm so proud of all of them,
Mhm.
but I think on like a current level, anti-fetish really resonates
Mm,
because obviously being a woman in the industry, whenever I'm sort of, I don't know, relevant in some way, whether it's on a Instagram feed or a YouTube video or something, I always get the comparisons, or I always get the, typical comments. So that kind of like is always something that I feel on a
yeah,
day-to-day basis. But on a deeper level, I think it's not the end. It would have to be like a extremely personal one. So yeah, it's like I feel a lot for all of them, which is amazing, because on Culling Culture loved them all, but by the time it came out, we'd kind of outgrown it already.
Yeah.
Whereas with Negative Energy, it's just like I feel connected to all of them, which is really nice.
I mean, I've been following you since, your previous band, so it's so amazing to see how far you've come on this. So, I mean, how would you say you've developed? Like, I mean, even in the short space of time since like seeing you at Spirit Box last year, you guys have grown so much. You've done incredible, and now you've put this album out. So, I mean, is there a particular thing that you think has helped you develop the most?
I think, honestly, it's learning to not care what other people think anymore. But like really living that, because we always felt like we always thought that we were doing that. And we always thought that we were doing that even with Cullen culture. But actually we were still, now looking at it sort of with some perspective and hindsight, we were still kind of working through a lens of, is this good enough? Do we need to do this to try and please people? Should we do blah, 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 blah? And whereas with Negative Energy, it really was a true case of leaving everybody's opinions at the door and just writing music for us. Don't write it for anybody else, just write stuff that we like. Which is why the reception's been so good, has like massively like blown us out the water. It's hard to kind of comprehend, because we didn't expect people to be so like on board with something when we'd left everybody else's opinions at the door. So I think it was that, as well as a lot of other sort of things that were happening at home and the pandemic and everything. We had a lot of time to sit around and figure out what music we actually wanted to write. But yeah, overall, I think, just doing stuff for yourself instead of for everybody else.
Obviously, speaking of what you were just saying about anti-fetish, obviously, being a woman in the industry, would you say that kind of feeling and that kind of, outlook that we were just talking about would be something that would help you in that kind of way, if that makes sense?
Yeah, definitely. I think I've kind of always hoped, up until we wrote Negative Energy, I always hoped and like sort of thought, one day people will see me as an individual, one day like they won't compare me. And then it got to the point where we were writing Anti-Fetish and Negative Energy, and I was like, you know what, I know I'm an individual, so I don't care what other people think. And ultimately, other people's opinions of you are none of your business. It doesn't matter what people think of you. It only matters what you think of yourself when you look in the mirror or when you lay your head on that pillow at night. And if I'm happy, that's all that matters. So really embracing that and living that kind of attitude is definitely what helped with that.
I think that's definitely come across, that you've really made yourself you, if that makes any sense. You really do stand out as an individual. You're pretty iconic, from my point of view, from what I've seen. So there's no real comparing. I mean, if I was to compare anything, I'd probably say, going back to the start of Vexed, you've got the CJ McMahon feature. I'm like, you're just basically the next level of Thy Art Is Murder, but a really, really good level. I hope you take that as a compliment.
Thank you so much. No, it's that's really cool. Really cool.
Yeah. I wanted to also ask you, like, what were the kind of emotions you experienced when writing this album?
Gosh, this album was incredibly emotional in every sense of the word. It was up, it was down, it was painful. For a long time, I didn't think we'd ever write another album, because when we released Cullen Culture, so much bad stuff happened in our personal lives that changed, like turned our worlds upside down, that it was just like, how do you get as a person to a point where you can function again, let alone think about writing an album? And so we spent the whole pandemic and then time afterwards trying to write and just not being able to do it. So it was incredibly frustrating. But then once we broke down that wall, it was almost like this euphoric feeling of, oh my God, like we know what we want to sound like. We know our sound. We feel good about this. Let's write about really horrible things. So it was really weird, because it was like, oh my God, we found our identity. We know our sound. This is amazing. Let's talk about all the traumatic stuff that just happened. So it was really up and down, but I think it was a great way of kind of processing what had happened. And so, yeah, there was lots of anger, denial, pain, hurt. But then at the same time, it was done with a positive attitude, weirdly.
I think going off that, We Don't Talk About It really stood out to me, especially when I was listening to it just before. I mean, what I was going to say, can you explain a bit more about that track in particular? Are you able to kind of go
Yeah,
into that at
cool.
all? And also, I
Yeah.
want to say, going off that, how would you think things can improve?
So We Don't Talk About It is basically, I took inspiration from watching loads of documentaries about people who have been victims of something horrific, and they have like their identities hidden and their voice changed. And so it was kind of my way of talking about things that I don't want to talk about, and like almost pretending it's not me, hiding my identity, and tuning my voice down so low so that it doesn't sound like me. So it almost sounds like a victim statement, and like I'm letting it out, but nobody knows it's me, kind of thing.
Okay.
Even though obviously people do, but that was kind of like the theme.
Is that something you've done? Have you actually lowered your voice in that particular track then?
Yeah. My voice is so low. That's because
fantastic.
Thank you. Because when I was doing it, I wanted it to sound ominous and creepy. But my speaking voice is obviously quite girly and feminine. So it would have given it a very different vibe, which wasn't the vibe we were going for. I wanted it to sound dark and creepy. So yeah, it's almost like I don't know, like a way of being able to vent and disguising it at the same time. And yeah, we do love that song. We didn't realize how well that song would go down. Otherwise we would have made it a single. It seems to be quite a fan favorite, which is really cool.
Nice. I know, speaking of some of your favorites, I noticed on your Instagram feed that you like Cross My Heart quite a bit. And I mean, coming from my personal point of view, it seems to show like a struggle with religion and beliefs. So I wonder what your kind of view is on it, and how kind of religion seems to work in line with your music at all.
So I was raised a Catholic. I was in a pretty, I don't want to say like extreme family, because we're not at all, but I went to religious schools, church every Sunday, baptized, christened, first Holy Communion. Then I went on as an adult to be confirmed. Like, I've been through the whole thing. I was like, this is what I want to do. This is what I believe. And then sort of for the last few years, as my grandfather, bless him, got really ill and death becomes a topic, it made me realize that I really couldn't stand the extreme side of the religion. So, for example, people were telling me what was going to happen to my grandpa after he died, and they were like, this is what happens. And I was like, but how do you know that? And they were just like, well, because I know. And I was like, well, nobody actually knows. And it was kind of this back and forth and of that sort of thing. And then I decided to just sort of do my own research, read the Bible properly in context, and do some historical, God, there's a lot to go through. Read historical things. And the more I read up on it, and the more I used my critical thinking and didn't use my religious glasses, I realized that it just wasn't for me, and I didn't believe in it anymore. And that's not to say I don't respect religion or those sort of belief systems, because I think it's crucial. It's human nature to believe in something, even if that's just hope, or even if that's just in ourselves. But I just needed to escape that world where you have to be white, straight, cisgender. You have to fit this mold, otherwise you don't go to heaven. And I was like, yeah, I'm done with that. So that's where the inspiration from Hope to Die came from. And I think a lot more songs will be inspired from that.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of get it, where you're dealing with, I mean, death seems such a difficult topic, especially when it comes to religion. So I really relate to that one. So kind of sticking with kind of like the themes we've been going around. Obviously, a lot of us in the metal scene, we really struggle with our mental health quite a bit. I feel personally that, when I've listened to the song panic attack. It kind of shows how society seems not to be the greatest at helping us out. So I was wondering if you've got any techniques that you use to help yourself when you're feeling down, or, you know, like the song says, you're having a panic attack, those kind of things.
For me, I think it's different for everybody, but for me, when I feel like I'm going into that down panic attack, or I'm stuck in a rut, I have two options. I either let myself 100% feel those things. I don't try and deny myself of feeling depressed, because sometimes it's weirdly good to sit and think, why do I feel like this? Let's think about why I'm feeling this way, and then almost rationally talk to yourself. Be like, okay, I feel like this way because this has happened, and it's okay to feel that way. And so I'm going to sit in my bed, feel sad, eat some ice cream, and watch The Simpsons, and then I'll feel better in a while, kind of thing. And then other times when it's irrational, I will do like the senses thing. I don't know if you've heard of this before, but
I don't.
So it's a really cool technique of like learning how to ground yourself. So it would be name 5 things that I can see. So I have to name 5 objects, and then name 4 things I can hear, 3 things I can smell, 2 things I can touch, and then 1 thing I can taste. And even if that taste, you know, is your saliva, you know, whatever it is, and that makes you kind of bring your whatever you're panicking about closer to home, and grounding you, and you realizing, oh, I'm actually in this room surrounded by objects. Like the problem isn't as big as you're sort of panicking about. And so yeah, that's a good technique that seems to work for me when I'm spiraling a bit. But yeah, society needs to get a little bit better at learning how to talk to people and deal with people that, you know, suffer with these sort of things.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. That'll really, I hope, help some people who are listening and watching that. So really respect you for that. Features. You got Alpha Wolf. My
Yes,
God, the boys. What made you choose them? How did it come about? What was it like?
So Alpha Wolf have been like one of my favorite bands for quite a while now, and as a band, they are one of our favorite bands.
Nice.
And I think I have been hyping them up for so long and tagging them and stuff and like suggesting them to people, that I think they realized that they had to work with me so I would stop stalking. No, they are such lovely guys. And we reached out to Lockie and we're just like, look, we'd love to have a vocal feature. Would you be up for it? Honestly, we didn't expect him to say yes, because, you know, we're a small band from the UK, but he was like, hell yeah, I love your music, let's do it. So yeah, that was incredible, knowing that he'd even listened to our stuff. And yeah, he bless him, he was touring the States, Asia, they were everywhere. And then over Christmas period, I think he had about a week or 2 weeks at home. He recorded it, got it done, and then went back off on tour. So like he really went out of his way to get it done. And he nailed it. Like those gutturals, ridiculous.
He's just a monster, ridiculous. Honestly.
Yeah, I know. And it was really cool to like hear different like versions of his vocals, because I would have been happy with whatever he did, but he did his sort of, you know, really cool hardcore, and then some, you know, screams, and then he went and did that blimmin' guttural, and I was just like, oh my God, yes.
Absolute gold. Right, so what's coming up for Vexed for the rest of this year?
So we haven't announced it yet, but we are doing a little UK headline run. So I won't announce the dates yet, but that is happening.
That's exciting.
Yes, really exciting. And then after that, we're gonna get prepared for some things that are happening next year. So it's all very vague and annoying because I can't announce yet, but things are actually happening. So it's really exciting. But we've got a few more music videos that we're going to release, and some vocal takes and things like that. So yeah, lots planned.
I love that. I really can't wait for it. So a couple of things before we finish up. I always like to ask my guests, can you give us a piece of life advice, or just advice in general, or maybe in a phrase that, you know, listeners and fans can follow, just in general?
Let me think. I think one of the best bits of advice I've ever had is to remember that nobody else actually cares that much. And I don't mean that in a negative way, like nobody cares about you, because obviously that's not the point. People love you and care about you and you're important to people. But what I mean is when you're doubting yourself or you're worried about, oh, I've done something really stupid, or maybe I look stupid, or I hate my appearance, or you're being really critical on yourself, just remember, nobody really cares that much. Everybody is so inward looking and self-indulging that if you're having a bad day and you think, oh, nobody likes me, I don't like the way I look, I hate this, I hate that, blah, blah, blah. Honestly, nobody really cares. Just do you. Yeah.
A little bit of fun just to wrap things up. I'm starting this, so you've got the first honor of this. I want you to give me a track to play straight after this interview. It can be one that's stuck in your head, one that you love of all time, or just something to annoy the listeners.
This is dangerous.
Oh yeah.
Okay, let me think. Let's go for, because I can't stop listening to it at the moment. It's not going to be an annoying one. It's going to be a good one. Gideon, More Power, More Pain.
Let's get that on. Brilliant. Megan Targett of VEXED, thank you so much. It's been an honor.
No, thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure.
Short Chris out. See you soon.
Take care.